Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Jared Kushner disses Jeff Sessions. And it's not the good time law that's the problem. Also, warden says the skirt was too short to watch an execution.
Why, the cheap, ball-flushing swine, he'll never get away with it, I tell you. He'll never get away with it.
So I guess open-toed shoes and killing don't go together. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter, and all-around great guy at APR. Welcome.
Welcome back home from Florida.
Nice. Yeah. All good things come to an end.
That's true. Hey, sometimes this Attorney General's office is kind of the gift that keeps on giving.
We have an Attorney General's office?
We do.
Oh.
We don't know that the Attorney General's over there.
I don't know if they're doing anything, but anyway.
All right, so this guy, Anthony Patrick Hall, is accused of murdering a deputy sheriff in Bibb County. A horrible thing that happened. He also critically wounded another deputy. Mm-hmm. And so after that horrific event, Marshall came out and said, well, this is why we don't need any more criminal justice reform, because this guy was released on good time. Mm-hmm. Well, what nobody seemed to point out until Alabama Political Reporter pointed it out is that this guy should not have been given good time at all, because he actually had escaped from jail, from county jail a few years earlier, had been captured, was charged, but no one ever did anything about it. It never went on his record that he had escaped, Josh. I mean, this has nothing to do with criminal justice reform.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to suggest the possibility that the Department of Corrections somehow messed something up? Is that what you're an entity that runs like a top on most every other day managed to mess something up in the paperwork of a guy? Get out of here. Listen.
Tragedy resulted, but it's just like, geez, you can't.
Yes.
The guy escaped jail.
How do you miss that?
He was gone for like a month, stole a police car in Oxford, and they never charged him.
I mean, it's just, it's another example of, how we do things in this state. We don't do things on the right end. And then we look for the easiest scapegoats on the backside of it. Most of the time, those scapegoats just happen to fit into a political narrative that benefits the person that's spewing it. In this case, Steve Marshall, who's against, he's upended all sorts of criminal justice reform in the past, and has looked for excuses to try to continue to pack people into prisons and to hold them there instead of using the prisons for the corrections in which they are supposed to be used for. It goes back again to what sort of prison system do we want to run? Do we want it to be operational? Do we want it to function well? Do we want to take these people that are a part of our society and make them productive members of that society? Or are we only interested in this punitive idea that's never really worked of just locking people up and forgetting about them?
Right.
Well, I mean, that takes it to an element of revenge. This, we're locking people up as revenge on whatever they've done instead of trying to, this is supposed to be a system where you're rehabilitating people or correcting their behavior to make them more productive citizens in our communities. Mm-hmm. And, if you're not paying attention, like here, if you're not paying attention, then that becomes a detrimental thing.
Well, APR was the only one to cover this story. We were the only ones that took time to actually find out what happened. Now, what the guy did was heinous, but he was released is on the Department of Corrections, not criminal justice system.
Exactly, and I think that's a point that a lot of people miss in these things is what we want is for the system to work, and in this case, the system working here would have been to keep this person who violated the law multiple times, including while he was incarcerated, to remain incarcerated because he clearly was not rehabilitated enough to come out into our society and be a free person. That's what working would have happened here. There are thousands of people. Thousands of prisoners that go into this system and are released on good time, and they go out and they don't do anything. They are reformed.
Right.
Well, do you have anything else to add there?
No.
I want to get to something that's just one of the most silly things that I've ever heard.
Offensive.
All right, so the Department of Corrections, they've apologized for this, but during that execution at Holman Prison, I mean, they're there putting a man to death.
Yeah.
To death last week. And a reporter from AL.com shows up in a skirt and open-toe shoes. Well, they say that her skirt is too short.
The warden.
The warden says the skirt is too short and they don't allow open-toe shoes. Josh, she ended up in a waiting outfit, for fisherman's outfit and everything because she was determined to go in. But this is... they're concerned about just length of her skirt, Susan.
This is so sexist. Would they ever turn a guy out for the color of his tie? Or his sleeves are too short? Or, exactly what would it harm if you're going into an execution if your skirt too... Other than he wanted to put her down. He wanted to make her feel inferior as a female reporter.
If you take a look at this guy's personnel report in there back in the 90s, he clocked a woman and knocked her out.
He clocked a woman and busted her eardrum.
Yeah, I don't know if he knocked her out, but busted. This guy who's now a warden hit a woman while he was a trooper. And
this is not the only incident with him either.
But come on. If you're worried about the length of the skirt, women should be worried about the length of your reach.
I feel bad that this happened to the female reporters there, and because it's a double standard. Susan's right, it's a double standard that men don't have to put up with, but more importantly, it's arcane rules that are arbitrarily enforced by the Department of Corrections just so somebody can flex a little power. There was no these rules, these dress codes are in place primarily for visitors who are going in to visit prisoners there. That this is not for going into the execution room, and the viewing room, and that's that it was used in that way. Another female reporter there says she was forced to stand up while they eyeballed her skirt to see if it was short enough. That's. What are we doing?
Eyeballed her skirt.
Yeah, what are we doing?
That's the correct word, Josh.
Look, you're putting a man to death.
Yeah.
And you're worried about open-toe shoes. Anyway.
There's nobody else, and there's not another prisoner in the area except for the one being executed.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama Politics.
There seems to be a new wave of aggressive driving lately.
You see those people, they are the ones that are tailgating other people because they have to get to their destination now.
Weaving in and out of traffic, looks like they could care less about who's around them. There's no one else on the roadway. They're the only one there.
Aggressive driving can be the difference between life and death.
All because somebody thought they needed to be the front of the line and get there first.
Slow down. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
My dog Jupiter is frightened when I climb too high, the owl said.
Check for monsters, Daddy.
I did, honey. There are no monsters. You're perfectly safe.
Protect yourself and those you love. Vaccinate now.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, I want to stick with this for a second. We've got a deputy sheriff murdered because of failed paperwork. Mm-hmm. We got the nonsense of measuring women's skirts. And now we look back just recently, over the weekend, not this weekend, but the past weekend,
Right.
4 people died while in prison. Incarcerated men died. 4
in a weekend.
in a weekend.
Come on now. We're looking at, we're approaching 30 dead prisoners, and we're only in August. I mean, we're getting really close to 30 in our correctional system. I mean, this is crazy. What are they actually doing here? Are they not paying attention? Are things going on behind the scenes that we need to know about? Because this is a ridiculous number.
Well,
it's just
if there's things going on behind the scenes, you're never going to know about them because of our open records and laws and the nature of the secretive government that we allow here. And so, listen, I think we all know, we've all read the Department of Justice report on Alabama's prisons. We know of what they do. We have seen, these same people who are measuring skirts to get into the execution room have, once classified a multiple stab wound death of a prisoner accidental death. And that's in the Trump Department of Justice report about Alabama's prisons. Okay. So it's again, what do we want to have here? We're paying millions and millions of dollars for this. What are we doing?
I think we're doing nothing.
Nothing.
But we need to move on from that. And this fits right in with this issue. When Donald Trump was president, they pushed through a federal criminal justice reform act. Mm-hmm. They got that done. Jared Kushner, who was the son-in-law of Donald Trump, married to Ivanka Trump, he helped push that through, and so did Ivanka. Now he's written a book. It's going to be out. Jared Kushner's written a book. It's going to be out soon. It's going to be called "I Was Busy with Pardons." No, I don't think that's what it's called. But anyway, he has a new book coming out in which he says that Jeff Sessions did everything he could to stop any criminal justice reform. He said, well, if the boy does the crime, he must do the time. So
that is so surprising to absolutely nobody. This is Jeff Sessions. If you told me the more shocking revelation here would have been, we tried to do this criminal justice reform, and our biggest ally was Jeff Sessions. He really wanted to go in and create a system that was fair to the incarcerated men and women, especially the incarcerated men and women of color. But of course, that's not who he is. He's the guy who believes that marijuana is a gateway drug and that it must be prosecuted, and and that it's and that there's no reform for some of these people. That you've got to be as harsh as possible, especially if they're black. It's just, this is his MO. He's the guy who upended equal funding in our public schools when he was the Attorney General of this state, because that's what he does.
I mean, next thing you know, Susan, somebody's going to accuse Jeff Sessions of locking up children at the border.
Oh,
what?
No, separating them from their parents?
No, that would never happen.
Oh,
never happen.
no.
Over 400 of those kids have been reunited with their families under the Biden administration, I'd like to point out.
Thank God for that.
Moving on to the next little bit of nonsense or craziness. Electronic voting machine lawsuits going to be heard in Montgomery. Lindy Blanchard, and a few others have sued John Merrill and the election board, saying that our system is too dangerous. We need to go to paper ballot because Martians from outer space can tap into it and transfer votes for Joe Biden from Donald Trump. And the Martians have landed, and they all have my pillow guy pillows with them.
Yeah, I don't think that's exactly the lawsuit, but it's as equally stupid. I mean, I don't know what more needs to happen than you say, I think the voting machines are hooked up to Wi-Fi or the internet or Bluetooth, and somebody say, no, they're not. Here, look, they're not. And then you just go away. Why don't you just go away at that point? Because that's what's happened. And it's just... Come on,
people
y'all.
with the 2020 election still believe it was stolen. That's never going to go away. And they've got to figure out somehow to try to justify that.
I mean,
and you look at the machines, and they're not connected to the internet.
No.
You can take the guts out of them and everything, and they still go, oh well, no, there's some way around that.
well, that's what I mean. That's where they've been tapped into by Martians.
Of course.
Because that's
Well,
who's
listen,
doing it.
have y'all been to a polling place and been around your normal registrar folks there?
Yes,
They can't connect
yes.
their phones to the Wi-Fi, much less the voting machines.
Our people would be so hurt.
No, but
You know,
our people
we
can't.
voted the Ivy League Fire Station,
Yes.
which is about the size of our house, and
Yeah.
we don't have a big house. And
I've known the people that are the polling people there for all of my life.
yeah, well, not yet.
Not yet.
But-
They've known me since before I was born,
Yeah.
but they still make me show my ID.
Yeah, right. These are very and look, you're right. That's not happening. But we get.
No.
But
There's
you know,
nothing nefarious about the Ivy League Fire Department.
if you want cheating, have paper ballots. Easiest way to cheat.
Yep.
Easiest way to cheat.
One for you, one for you, one for the garbage. One for you,
Yeah,
one for
yeah.
you, one for the garbage. There you go.
Yeah,
but count those.
I don't want people
Hanging chads.
Yeah, I don't want
Remember
people
that.
counting my
Yeah.
ballot. I want the machine to count my ballot. Anyway, well, further disenfranchised voters.
Welcome to Alabama. Have a nice day.
ALGOP is confirmed. John Wall has confirmed that the Alabama Republican Party will have a resolution to consider at their summer dinner to make it so that you have to register to vote, and they're going to close the primaries. So if you're an independent or you don't want to be party affiliated, tough luck. You
Guess
can't
what?
vote.
I'm done with voting in primaries.
I mean, that's what a lot of people are going to do. They're not going to vote.
I'm not
Well, and listen, that's that's your obviously your choice, but that would be the choice of a lot of people, and a lot of people would just be squeezed out of that. But that then limits your choices for who you want as your representative, and
exactly.
it's
Which is what they want.
nonsense. It's absolute nonsense that we're going to have a bunch of guys in a back room somewhere picking who runs our government, even more so than they already do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Your government at work. You're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics.
Throughout my career, I've seen many crashes, and a lot of the fatalities are from people who haven't worn their seatbelt.
Cars have rolled over multiple times.
I've had people end up in lakes, ravines. I've been looking for people in the woods for a couple hours before.
Usually just about every bone in their body is broken, their organs have ruptured, and typically they die.
You want to save a life, just simply click a button and put that seatbelt on.
Seatbelts really do save lives.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly
Lights out.
and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Speed is one of the biggest factors in a fatal car crash. Your car stops, but your body does not stop at the same time. Your body keeps going, and that could be running into your seatbelt, that could be hitting the airbag, something has to stop it, and unfortunately it's something very hard.
There have been times that we've come upon accidents where if people weren't speeding, they'd probably still be alive today.
It's truly dangerous and it puts everybody at risk.
There's just no point to it.
This kind of stuff has got to stop.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, what is happening in Kansas? This past week, the people of Kansas voted overwhelmingly to keep abortion in that state. According to their constitution, they have bodily autonomy, which the Supreme Court in 2019, their Supreme Court ruled that meant the woman had a right to an abortion. The voters went to the polls and voted saying that they wanted to keep abortion legal in Kansas.
And the interesting thing was the way they wrote the referendum was that you had to vote no. So that you had to vote no if you wanted to keep it. Here's the interesting thing, really, though. 276,000 Democrats voted no. 464,000 Republicans voted no. 169,000 unaffiliated voters voted no, for a total of 540,000 people. So it was Democrat and Republican alike, more heavily Republican than Democrat.
Well, I mean, when you figure that in, Josh, I mean, it does show you that, they gave even Republicans a binary choice. You could either trust the legislature to do away with all abortion, or you can keep the Constitution that allows it. And, a no vote on that meant you kept abortion legal.
Right.
I just wonder how that would play out if our legislature dared trust the voters. I mean, we are a democracy until you get to the legislature.
No, we much prefer the smoky back room. Listen, I think it's a real signal to Republicans out there now, and you've seen it, the reaction to this over the course of the last couple of days, and it is one of I think worry and dread about what's going to happen, because there were a lot of things. There were a lot of components to this vote that are very bad news for the Republicans who have pushed this thing. The turnout for a primary was through the roof. It was essentially a general election type turnout, which they didn't expect. They did not expect to have that level. I mean, it didn't barely get beaten. It got killed. As they say, in there, and it was expected to pass. And so when you have that sort of a turnout unexpectedly, and it goes against an issue like this in the way that did, it signals to everybody that there's a real problem here. And I think that real problem is people, no matter how you feel about abortion, and there are a lot of, there are varying amount of attitudes towards abortion, okay? And I fall probably somewhere in the middle. A lot of my more liberal friends don't like my stance on abortion, and that's, it's fine. We're all entitled to what we believe on this. And but I do, where I fall is, I think that ultimately the decision should be made by medical professionals. And that the government should stay the hell away from it. Medical professionals and their patients should be in charge of this. And I think when you start messing with those decisions, between a patient and a doctor, people don't like it at all.
I mean, Susan, we had a referendum that a few years ago, Alabama chose to declare itself a pro-life state. But when you look at numbers like this is people getting fired up to vote. Again, and I think the pro-life movement, and they've done a great job over the years of building the case, 50 years of building this case, but the leadership of the pro-life movement has not had a plan for what happened after Dobbs. I mean, it's been 6 weeks. I know that's early on, but there should have been a plan in place to protect women, to find a middle ground, somewhere where we can all live in peace.
Well, a lot of that law has gone too far, especially with the one in the state of Alabama, where you're ignoring the welfare of the mother. You're ignoring, emergency ectopic pregnancies or rape and incest and all of that. And I think people, even pro-lifers, have an issue with that to some degree. That it's beginning to affect the way the way people think about this now.
Well, Josh, I mean, our AG has been asked to clarify what is what on this. And it seems like, of course, we know there's no exception for rape or incest, which, is distasteful as it possibly can come. But the other side of it is our leaders aren't prepared to tell us what's next. I mean, if you look at Alabama, if you look at this state, we rank 38th in uninsured women. I mean, we also rank 48th in maternal mortality. That means we're 48th in women dying during pregnancy. They die. And 48th in infant mortality, meaning children die. But we have no plan.
But don't forget 48% in number 48 in child poverty as well.
But we have no plan.
No, we've never had a plan, and we knew this was coming. I mean, we look at all the time and effort we put into these various abortion bills, and it's just like the referendum that we had a few years ago. People will bring that up and say the state voted for that. No, they didn't. They were essentially dogs chasing cars at that point. You never expected to catch it, and that's what has happened here. They never expected to catch the car. And that they overturned Roe here, it just exposes this idea that they never expected that law to be overturned. And so they've done nothing. They've done nothing to protect anybody from anything. And there's all these questions out. The Minority Leader Anthony Daniels has asked Steve Marshall to clarify the law on behalf of doctors, just to help the doctors understand what they're supposed to do. I talked to, on our podcast, we interviewed Mia Raven, who runs the Powerhouse in Montgomery and works at the women's clinic there. She said that she has been told by their attorneys not to even give advice to women, because that could be a felony under Alabama's laws. Not to give advice on where they could go to get help for their pregnancy. We have so many questions, and we've put women in such an awful state in this.
Well, and again, we need leadership to come forward and help try to solve this problem.
They need to be focused on pro-life and these numbers of making sure that women, if they're going to be pro-life, let's be honest here, take care of the mothers, take care of the children after they're born. Think that through.
Expand Medicaid.
Well, we've got to get some clarity. There are people living in fear. It doesn't matter which side you fall down on that issue. If you're pro-life, right now, you're hurting the people you really care about because they're not getting the help they need.
Exactly.
So let's think that through. Yeah. All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.